latest release of our application lifecycle management tool. My name is Jason Hammon. I am the DevSuite product manager, and today we will be walking through all the new things in the tool, talking about upgrade options, and also giving you a preview of another webinar that we have this Thursday. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the webinar after, in the next couple days. You will receive an email that will have a link to the webinar so that you can watch it later if you'd like. So I'll be covering an overview of what's new in 9.5 first, then we'll be walking through a demo of the tool, and then finally we will have a question and answer period. And if you would like to submit any questions, on your GoToMeeting toolbar, there is a section to ask questions. So you can ask me any questions. I'll answer as many as I can on the webinar itself, and any questions that we don't get around to answering today, we'll follow up via email. So DevSuite 9.5 features a number of new things. Certainly the biggest feature is a completely redesigned user interface. And so today we'll be taking a tour of that redesigned interface and seeing all the new things involved with that. Part of that is also an overview of how we are now approaching our project structure. So as you'll see in a minute, we've taken a little different approach to how we display the projects in DevSuite and what you can do with them. We'll also cover the new dynamic tabs, which improves both performance through the smart caching and also makes it easier to use the tool itself. And then we'll walk through specific new features of DevSpec, DevTrack, and DevTest. Then I'll have a couple slides on some of the upgrade options for 9.5, and then finally I'll preview the webinar coming up on Thursday, which is on our new tool for project management, Project 1. So let's start off by taking a look at the new DevSuite interface. So the first thing I'd like to show you is that when you're on the home page of DevSuite, you can now have multiple tabs so that if you want to have more than one tab of reports and such, you can do that. And then you can also use the System tab, My Workspace tab, to see a list view of any of the projects that you belong to, and also the project structure. Now, as I mentioned during the PowerPoint, we've taken a different approach on the project structure. So before, each user would see maybe requirements here, tracking, testing, and those were all for single projects that were all related in some way. So they were part of a parent-child hierarchy. We realized that many of our customers don't work that way. They might have a couple DevTrack projects that they work in. They may have many DevTest projects. So what we've done with the release of 9.5 is we've provided you with a couple different ways to view the data that's in DevSuite. When I select on this icon right here, I can see a list of all of the project bases that you have. Now, you may have noticed I just called it a project base instead of a project. What we realized from talking to our customers and about how they're using the tool is that many customers use a single admin-based project to contain many different projects in the list view via functionality like the development spaces or the old sub-project concept. And it was often confusing to refer to how do I create a new project when really people were using these as base projects. So going forward within the admin and in many places in the UI, you'll notice that it says project base instead of project. But the real thing that is unique and new about this is that I can not only click on a single project to open it up, and we'll get to all of the new UI in a second, but I can open up multiple projects, even more than one DevTrack project or more than one DevTest project. So you can now have as many project list views as you want open at the same time. Back to this navigation point here, I can view all of the available project bases as a tree structure like I am now, or I can also view them as a list. So if you have many, many projects, you can view them as a list or as a tree, and then you can also search within them. So if I want to just put in tracking, I can pull up specifically that project. We found that this makes it much easier for many of our customers to work with the modules that they belong to without being distracted by the modules that they may not belong to. In addition to being able to view the new project structure this way, in a tree, or as in the list view, there's also a second option that's available at the system admin level. So if you are a customer that maybe only has a handful of project bases that you manage, the second option might be good for you. The second option allows you to view your project bases as icons on the left-hand side and switch between them. Using this option, I am only looking at one project at a time, typically, or you could choose to have more than one open also. So that's the second option. I'm going to go back to this view, and then now we're going to talk more about the elements of the new UI and some of those aspects. First off, you may have noticed that the look and feel is really changed completely. And that is across modules. So whether I'm looking at DevTrack, or if I jump over to DevSpec, or let's even open a DevTest project too, so we can see that together too. You'll notice that the icons, the look and feel, the coloring of all the products is now consistent. We've really made a tremendous effort to make sure that if you are used to looking at the icons in one project, one product type, that they will be familiar when you're in another. So you can, there are some unique icons that are present in, one product over another, but in general, anything, they all share searching, and they all share the ability to configure a detail frame, for example. Those sorts of things will all be consistent across the modules. We've also added in the ability to detect old browsers too. So with this new release, there's a lot of great new features that may require, that your browser's been updated in the last few years. For example, if I click on creating a new issue in DevTrack, you'll notice that one feature that a lot of customers have asked for over the years is the ability to drag and drop your attachments. So let's do that. I can shrink this down, and let's find my desktop for a second. It's a guy on a bike. Actually, I'll have to kill my slideshow to show you this great feature. Sorry about that. So I can easily grab a file, drag it here, and it'll let me drag multiple files at once even to add them to submitting a new defect. Now this is something that will only work in the newer versions of the browsers. So what we've done is we've added in a feature that will alert you if your browser is too old to support the current versions of DevSuite. So that is the file drag and drop. Now, there's also many new features that are specific to each module. And there's also some new things about the way you view items in each module. So if I click on any item in DevTrack, I can view it either as a tab, or I can view it in the detail frames that you might be used to. So viewing items in a tab, just like viewing the list views in a tab, gives you the flexibility to view multiple items at once and easily tab between them. You can also use the navigation to change which item you're looking at when you're looking at them as a specific tab. This is across the board for all of the modules now. So whether you're in DevTrack or DevSpec or DevTest, you're able to pop up each of these items as separate tabs. There are also some additional viewing options too that are present in both DevTrack and DevSpec that allows you to either view the quick edit page or a read-only view of the page too. And these can be controlled by your permissions too. So if you're a user that only has read-only permissions, you would only see it as read-only. All right, So let's talk about some of the new features that are present in DevSpec specifically. So DevSpec, we've done a number of improvements since the last release, some of which may have been present in some of the patches. One of them is the ability to see a new linked spec as a column. So I can go ahead and click on my user settings, and then I can view a linked spec page for any of the items that we have. The system's a little slow right now. Okay, so I can look for, I can add spec icons, which is brand new, and then I can also add my linked specs to the list view also. So let's do that. So what this allows me to do is that if I have any linked specs, I would see this as in the column just in the same way as where I have the linked templates. So we could easily do that, or we could just sort by it, see if we have anything there. So let's scroll it back over here. You may also notice that we've made it so that all of the columns are configurable too in all the modules. As I mentioned before, if I pop up any of the specifications as a new window, you would have some additional view options too. For any spec, you can also define a prefix for it too. So you can see here that I have the spec type as the prefix for this particular one. So it says spec 1299. But if I wanted to create a new item, I could also have that. Let's create a new epic, for example. Or I can view that another epic also may have epic 1300 as the prefix too. We've also improved the parent-child linking within DevSpec so that you can have multiple parents for each child link. And then you can view that on the relationship tree view. So, and if you're unfamiliar with DevSpec, I should mention that DevSpec is our requirements management solution that allows you to define your requirements and then assign them to both development or use them as the basis for the creation of test cases. Okay. I also wanted to mention that for DevSpec, that the spec type icons and prefixes are also supportable in some of the reporting too, and that we do have some new reporting for DevSpec, including a improved traceability report that will show that parent-child relationship. Moving on to DevTrack. So in DevTrack, we've done a number of new things in the tool. First, something that a lot of people have asked for is the ability to import in directly from the list view. So that used to be a Windows-only client. And I should mention now that we still have the Windows client for both DevTest and DevTrack, so don't worry. So in this case, I can right-click on the folder, and I can select either import from text or import from Excel. The import from Excel is a feature controlled by the admin, so if you're not seeing that, you just need to enable it at the system level to support Excel import. We've also changed it so that if you want to reconfigure the color of your mandatory fields, you can. That is something brand new. So if you wanted to have your mandatory fields be green or some other color other than red, you could certainly do that. As we saw before, we've improved the file attachment control for DevTrack to allow you to support drag and drop. That's present on both. You can do it. Actually, here it's not. It is the old dialog, but on the submit new, it's present. Also, as a kind of an extension from what we did in the previous release with the definable UI, we do now support the ability to completely hide the current status page. So you can see here in this project that I'm working in right now, I have added many of the current status fields to the just the regular property page or that I'm using. So I don't necessarily have to have a separate tab to control things like time tracking or the current status. Next, for DevTest, we have a few nice new features. I'm going to highlight something specifically from the browser right now and show you that I can easily collapse multiple tabs. So I'm just going to close all the tabs to the right now, and then we're going to look at DevTest. So for DevTest, we've already covered the fact that you can click on any of the items and view them as new tabs. But in DevTest, we've taken that a step further. So when I'm looking at a DevTest project, for example, and I want to run a wizard, I can now run that as a separate tab also. So by allowing you to run the DevTest planning wizards as separate tabs, what it's allowed us to do is even if that wizard takes a little while to complete, you will be able to continue to work on the other modules. You can update your defects or run your tasks while you're running the wizard. Another thing that we've done in DevTest is that if you're using our feature that allows you to have template shortcuts, so a template shortcut is really linked templates that may have a relationship with other templates. We now allow you to select which fields you want to have synchronized between those two. And then just like all the other modules, DevTest has been completely revamped in terms of the use the UI. Next, for DevPlan, for users that have previously used DevPlan as a separate tab, so in the old UI it would say planning. Now we've integrated that functionality right into DevTrack. So if you are using DevTrack and you have DevPlan enabled, I can just click on this icon and easily go right to my DevPlan planning view. So this is just built right into the tool. And this is going to be, a different discussion than what we'll be talking about more on Thursday. And after I kind of cover all the features today, I'll give you a preview of what that webinar will cover in terms of Project 1 and what functionality that adds. Okay. A few more things to cover about the specific new release. So let's do one more thing. And we've also, in all the modules too, we've improved the reporting so that you can see that the graphics and everything have been updated for any of the reports that you would have. So let's look at some quick reports, some options. All the reports you're using Silverlight now, they all look much better in terms of the look and feel also. And any reports that you have created and marked as a web query report are available to add to any of those dashboard tabs you would have. Okay, so let me jump back to the PowerPoint. And now we can cover some additional usability improvements that are going to be coming in a release that's in May. So in our upcoming release in May, we're also going to be adding in the inline editing, dynamic column filtering, and some theme support, so the ability to change the color scheme of the UI itself. We're also adding in the ability to add annotations to image files or video files, other digital assets that you may be storing in KnowledgeWise. We'll also have DevTrack support for the customer web portal, which will be essentially replacing the beta customer portal for users that are using it or improving that functionality that's available through that. Finally, we have some additional report auto-generation options and integration services that will be available for all the modules and additional third-party integrations. And finally, My DevSuite, which is available in the Apple Store or the Android Store, you can download that now and use it with the new interface too. The new interface will also work natively on your tablets too. So with all this in mind, we wanted to take a few minutes to talk about upgrade planning and some service options that we have available. Hopefully, as you've seen today, just in terms of the project structure, the improved interface, the tab support, and just the standardization of all our icons and such, DevSuite will greatly improve the user experience and productivity of your team. We met with many of our customers prior to this release just to go over feedback that we received on the usability of each of the modules and the sorts of things that people wanted to see in terms of the UI. We're offering free upgrade testing services for all our current customers, as well as discounted professional services to help you implement the upgrade and to kind of revamp maybe your configuration or at least train you on the new features. So anytime you upgrade, it's a great opportunity to really take a look at your current configuration. You know, which modules are you using? Are you using them to the, the way that you feel like you should be using them? We can offer you some tips on maybe best practices and such in terms of how we see other customers using it. Finally, along these same lines, in order to get everyone up on a current version by this time next year, we will be wanting everybody to be on 9.5 or above as of March 1st, 2016. So that's next year. So you have a year to plan your upgrade, and then we would love to have everybody be on a newer version. So 9.3.1 especially will support until the end of this year, and then we'd like to see everybody upgrade. To do that, if you would like to take advantage of any of our upgrade service packages, there are 3 options that are available. So if you have active maintenance, which I hope you do, the upgrade's free. And then we'll do upgrade testing and a remote system review to just take a backup of your database and ensure that the upgrade will complete without error. We will also provide a system review and recommendations of anything that we may have noticed in terms of the setup or the architecture of your system. Package 2, so up till May 15th, we will give you a 20% discount on the cost of a regular 3-day upgrade, performance tuning, and admin training. So what this will allow you to do is 3 days of our assistance. We'll upgrade your system. We'll walk you through all the new features, and we'll also index your database and help ensure that it's running quickly. Finally, there is also an option if you would like to do even more time with us. So you can do a 5-day option where it is performance tuning, expanded training, and configuration. So this is an opportunity to upgrade to the latest version and at a discounted price. We'll also throw in 10 additional free Project One licenses, which is the new project management tool that we'll be talking about on Thursday, and then we'll also work on some end user training also. Now moving on to Project One, we do have a webinar this Thursday at the same time, I believe, and we will be covering our new project management solution, Project One. Project One takes a 2-layered approach to project management. So we have both the management level project of the projects and also the implementation level. The implementation level is generally covered within DevSuite or ServiceWise now, and that would be the project tracking of the actual tasks that are part of that work breakdown structure. What Project One does is add an additional higher level layer that allows you to manage tasks at a high level for those projects. So to kind of give you a sense for what those two breakdowns really mean, So at the management level, you're able to track the project lifecycle and milestone outside of the individual task. Detailed planning, so that you can enforce quality control. You can track properties of that project like risk, resource allocation, financial planning, job performance, deliverable status, and more. It has milestone change management and also an approval workflow at that level. It also is working in conjunction with the implementation level work breakdown structure, which is what is currently in the DevSuite ALM. And in the near future, we'll be integrating that also with the implementation WBS that's in ServiceWise. All right. So once again, that's next Thursday, and that's the DevSuite Project 1 webinar. All right, so now let's answer some of the questions that we may have had, and maybe we can dig into some more features after we answer some of the questions. Okay, how are the projects sorted in the project-based list? They're actually sorted in the same manner that you would generally see in the admin, so it's preserving the structure if you're looking at it as a tree view. And you know, if you're looking at it as a flat view, it's taking that same structure and flattening them. Okay, next question. Will there still be a desktop client, or is it only web-based now? Answered that earlier, but we are committed to continuing to support the DevTrack and DevTest Windows clients. And actually, there are some nice usability improvements in both those tools, just in terms of some little usability items that people have requested in the past. Okay. Let's see, next one. Minimum browser for the drag and drop attachments. I believe you need to be using IE 10 or above. And then the individual requirements for Chrome and Firefox will be on our website. Okay, question about the link specs. With the new parent-child link specs, yes, you can see whether something's a parent-child based on the link type will have a P for parent or C for child. Okay, a question about the attachment controls in DevTrack versus some of the other modules. So one of the things that we are going to be doing in the upcoming release in May is this wonderful new attachment control that's present in DevTrack will also be added to the other modules too. So currently DevTest still has the old attachment control. We have not ported that over yet. And I believe that's the same for DevSpec also. Next question. For DevTest, is it possible to have the auto time tracking when a task is open in a tab and to have multiple tasks open all? So basically, can you have concurrent time tracking with multiple tabs open? I believe in this current version in 9.5, we do not currently support that yet, but that is also something that we are working on, so that the opening a new tab will actually trigger the stopwatch time tracking if it's in silent mode, and that silent mode will work concurrently. Okay, so someone has a question about Link Plus. We have Link Plus. Are there any significant schema changes that might impact our use with Link Plus? So if you're using Link Plus, that should eliminate concerns about schema changes. So the Link Plus interface will take care of that for you. So there are schema changes for sure in this version. But if you're using the APIs will take care of any of those schema changes for you, so you know. If you are perhaps generating reports directly from the database, that is something that you may want to check with professional services on before upgrading just to be sure that your reports will work and such afterwards. But with the API, you're always going to be okay. Okay, question about what we mean by free upgrade testing services. Free upgrade testing services means that if you provide us with a copy of your database, then what we do is we will run that database through the upgrade process and look for any errors. And then we'll also do some basic acceptance level testing on it with our QA team just to ensure that nothing strange happens for your specific instance. Of course, they test it in a more generic fashion, before the release comes out. But because the system is so configurable and you can have so many different combinations of fields and settings, we do like to offer that to our customers just to ensure that your upgrade goes smoothly. It also ensures that if you're on an older version of DevSuite, that if there does need to be an incremental upgrade, that we can handle that for you and identify the best path for it. So the next question is about Project One. Is Project One part of DevSuite? Project One is an add-on to DevSuite that will be covered in length on Thursday. But essentially what it does is it provides you with a new project type that will act as a kind of a management layer for all of the projects, implementation projects that you're working on. And another question about Project One. If someone goes with Project One, can they manage what's already in the system or only newly added items? So Project One can absolutely interact with your existing projects, and then you can add additional milestones and such from the Project One setting. But you can use it with existing projects, or you can use it as the starting point for new projects. But you could create a Project One project and then link it to existing DevTrack spaces, DevSpec spaces. Next question. Okay, very specific question about integrating DevSuite with CustomerWise and the upgrade. For any users that may have an older version of DevSuite, or maybe they're integrated with a specific version of CustomerWise, I would recommend talking with support or professional services about the best course of action for that. So I absolutely recommend taking advantage of our free upgrade testing services if you have an older version or you have kind of a more unique environment. What improvements have made to the admin tool? The admin tool has some new features in it that are related to the ability to configure the spec IDs and things like that, or whether or not you want to see the project list view, or you want to have the icons on the left-hand side. But the look and feel of the admin is going to look very much the same to all of you. We are planning to completely revamp the admin and make it web-based, and the timeline for that is really in the next year or so. Can you bug work items into tabs with a single group command? No. Currently, you can only open them one at a time. So that is something that we are looking at for an upcoming release, would be to allow you to potentially open multiple tabs at once. We're a little bit nervous about that because you might open 100 of them. There's a next question about the context menus still there in DevTrack web client. I assume what you mean is the action menus or the right mouse click menus. They are, yes, they are still present in the tool. If you have other questions about them, I'd be happy to answer them. Clarification that Project One is this Thursday. Yes, it is this Thursday, coming up in 2 days. So if you haven't registered for that, I would highly recommend that you register for it. Are there detailed instructions for upgrading, including the DB conversion? Yes, there are upgrade instructions, very similar to all our upgrades in terms of what the steps are in the process. But once again, we're offering free upgrade services to our customers, and we'd be happy to help you out. So if you are not comfortable with doing the upgrade, or in the past, if you've had any issues, reach out to your account manager or support, and we would be happy to help. Oh, when is 9.5 available? It's available on our download site right now, so it is there. You notice that the TFS tab was missing from DevTrack. It is still absolutely there. I just don't have every single feature turned on. But the TFS integration is still there and supported. Reporting. So I can dig into this a little more because I've had numerous questions asked about how the DevTrack reporting works and about custom reports and things like that. DevTrack uses 3 types of reports. We have what we call standard reports, which are the old style, select a type of report, use the filters to govern the content of that report. So those, that's from the original version of DevTrack. That's the way the reports always were. In 9.3, we introduced a new concept called saved reports, which allow you to, based on your sub-project tree, you can pick different development spaces and define reports that are specific to those spaces or projects. So I'm looking at an Agile project I have called Content Sharing Manager, and I can run a burn report. The last type of reports down here, these global reports, these are basically custom reports. So within this report view, I can right-click and create a folder structure or create a new report, and then pick the type of report that I want to. And in this case, I'm creating my own custom report. So I pick the report type, and then I will, based on that type I picked, and the configuration available will let me customize it. All right. There are many, many, many questions. Support Chrome, Firefox, and reports in DevTrack. Absolutely. I am using Chrome right now, so you can absolutely use Chrome and access reports, or Firefox, and you can view the reports in DevTrack. There's a specific question about sending an email from the Windows client. I'll follow up with you afterwards because I'm not sure off the top of my head whether that works that way or not. Okay, there is a question. Okay, once again, this is a question about the Windows client. Does all of the features from the desktop client now exist in the web? Yes. For the most part, other than the way the Windows client interacts with the server, which is a little bit different than the web, and we have done our best to add in keyboard commands, the importing, and anything else that we could think of that may have been missing from the web client. Now, that being said, going forward, there may be things that are in the web client that are not present in the Windows client just by the nature of the things that are available in the web. Can I have 9.3 and 9.5 on my app server at the same time? No, we would not recommend that. And the reason we would not recommend having both instances on the same server at the same time is you can run into all kinds of issues trying to open the admin and stuff. The app server will actually upgrade. If you ran the admin against the wrong server, it would actually go ahead and upgrade it. So you're always better off separating them out, having them be a separate test environment for 9.5, and then having your production 9.3 environment, if that's what you're Can you paste an image from clipboard in the description field of the DevTrack issue? Yes, you can. So if you have an HTML image or something like that, you can paste it into the description. See a little bit about exporting, importing features, new version. Probably need more info there, but the import, so all the import and export of any reports, we still have all of the options that we had before. So you can export to Word, Excel, multiple Excel formats, so CSV, XLS, or HTML. So those are some of the options we have on the export of the reports. Another question, we are using version 6.2 of DevTrack. How long it would take? Once again, I would recommend you reach out to the support team, and they can provide you, you can give them a backup copy, and they can test it and let you know whether or not there's going to be some incremental upgrades in there. I'm pretty sure there will be incremental upgrades if you're going from a version that old, but they can handle it. Okay, so a question about some storyboard functionality in DevTrack. If you want to see the storyboard and you don't want to have sprints, would be the question. You do need to have, you know, a specific folder type to support that. So another option is the milestone folder type will also work with that. So you could do that. Would be an option if you didn't want to use the sprints. But you have to be at least one level below the space to utilize that functionality. But it doesn't have to be via sprint. Question about free upgrade testing for hosted customers. Is that done automatically? It's the way we do it for hosted customers is that we will reach out to you and ask you, you know, we're not just going to upgrade you to 9.5 without informing you first. But yes, we do take a backup copy of your database when you say that you want to be upgraded to the latest version. We take a backup copy and we do test it in a QA environment before we upgrade it. There's a question about, are changes made using the web portal viewable in real time, or would a screen refresh be needed? One thing that we have done in the latest version is that we are doing some caching on the list views and such, and in some cases you may need to do some reloading, but by doing the smart caching, the performance between views is really, really fast. So we have eliminated some of the auto page refresh that you know happen over and over and over again before in the older versions, so that some of the data can, you know, you can see that the performance is really fast because we are caching some of that data. Yeah, I mentioned the template shortcuts in DevTest do have the new feature with syncing. We also include that with task shortcuts too. Task shortcuts are something that if you wanted to, you can create all these shortcuts within the task view too, and now you can synchronize those fields too, or not synchronize them. And yes, we are going to revamp the admin, as mentioned. Another question about, can you run 9.3 and 9.5 side by side during migration? You know, once again, just set them that is in, you know, set 9.5 up in a test environment, and 9.3 can continue to be your production environment. You just don't want to have them on the same servers and such. SQL Server 2012 supported, absolutely. Is the build on the download site ready for production? Yes. There's some specific questions about backup, if you're migrating your SQL from 2008 to 2012. Once again, go ahead and contact support. They are the best people to handle those questions. They'd be happy to help. Okay, and we are running out of time, so I'm going to answer a few more questions. There's a lot of, there's some other questions that kind of require digging a lot more into some of the functionality, and I'd be happy to schedule, a one-on-one call to go through that. So if I didn't get to some of the more specific questions about how something works today or about your specific system, reach out to me directly and we can walk through it together. I think the board behavior has not changed between the views. I don't think there is anything specifically new in the board view. Let me see. Yeah, I think the board view is relatively unchanged. Question about licensing. Will I need a new license for 9.5? Yes, you will. So when you upgrade, you will need to get a new license file for 9.5. In terms of who to send your database to, once again, reach out to support. Okay, and then final question, once again, question about upgrading from 9.2 to 9.5. Once again, reach out to support, and they will give you kind of the right steps to do that. Thank you so much for your time today. Like I said, if you did have any specific questions that I did not answer about specific functionality, I'd be happy to walk you through in another web meeting. Make sure that you check out our webinar this Thursday in 2 days on Project 1, and you can learn more about the project management capability, that higher level project management capability that's present in DevSuite with Project 1. And finally, if you'd like to reach me, my email is jhammon@techexcel.com, and I'm happy to speak with you about anything I've shown today. And you can follow DevSuite PM, and we will post stuff occasionally on Twitter. Thank you so much for your time today. Have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.